Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear viewers and welcome to Women's View on Ahlulbayt TV. You're watching Women's View live on Ahlulbayt TV. As you all know, we are broadcasting during the 10 days of Muharram inshallah every day with a brand new guest and topic. So you can tune in every day for a Muharram special. Now just before we begin our topic today, I would just like to tell you all that the footage you have just witnessed was live footage from Karbala. Inshallah, we shall be broadcasting live footage from Karbala during today's show, so you can see that in and out today's show, inshallah. Now, to introduce our topic today, as you all know, today's topic is the role of motherhood in bringing up children which will benefit society. We find numerous hadith and Quranic verses which talk about the role of both the father and mother in terms of parenthood, but we always see the emphasis on motherhood, the role of a mother. So we see that ultimately she bears a greater responsibility and a greater reward for raising up the children. We see that her actions, her akhlaq, her behavior and her Islamic knowledge becomes the model for that child. So anyone who takes up the role of motherhood must try to excel. And in terms of excelling, we must try to gain our Islamic knowledge and inshallah find the best strategies and the best ways for parenthood and raising our children. So inshallah today we'll be speaking about many aspects such as nourishing the child from the womb, raising the child, how to Islamically educate the child, and inshallah we'll be taking a reference to the tragedy of Karbala and why we should educate our child on that aspect as well. Just to remind you all that this is a live call-in show, so if you would like to call in with your views or opinions, then please do call in with the number on the screen. We'd love to hear from you. Alternatively, you can email us at womensview@ahlulbayt.tv. That's womensview@ahlulbayt.tv. You can also post any comments on Facebook or Twitter, and inshallah we will try to read out any comments posted on Facebook or Twitter during today's show and endeavour to answer it or address it in today's show. So that's our outline of today's show. I'm your host Zahra Al-Alawi, and today with me is Sister Noor. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
First of all, to start off with, what is the role of motherhood?
The right of your mother is that you know that she carried you where no one carries anyone. She gave to you of the fruit of her heart that which no one gives to anyone. And she protected you with all her organs. And that's the reality. When a child is in their mother's womb, her body protects them. You know, they always tell pregnant women, eat well, eat well. And the pregnant woman will always tell you, don't worry about the child. I'm the only one who's going to get affected. The child is getting all the nourishment. But, so this is an amazing, status to have as a mother. Then he says, she did not care if she went hungry as long as you ate. And we can see this in many figures of mothers around the world. You see how, especially like if you see these sad pictures of the people in Somalia, the mother strives as much as she can to feed her child. Even though she'll stay hungry, it's okay. And they say a relationship between a mother and a child is so different from any other relationship. No one can explain it. And if she was thirsty as long as you drank, if she was naked as long as you were clothed, if she was in the sun as long as you were in the shade, she gave up sleep for your sake, she protected you from heat and cold, all in order that you might belong to her. You will not be able to show her gratitude unless through God's help and giving success. So already a mother has this really, really high status in Islam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects a mother to behave as I just described, as Imam al-Sajjad describes. And I'm sure many of the viewers have heard of the hadith where the Prophet is asked by someone, who from my family should I show familial devotion? And he answers, your mother. And then the person says, then who? And then he says, your mother. Then the person says, then who? Then he says, your mother. Then he asks, then who? Then he says, your father and whoever is next of kin. So the mother is emphasized upon 3 times. So while a child has this large responsibility towards its mother, her or his mother, the mother has to provide the child with the expected amount of love and care so that this child can truly acknowledge and truly appreciate her care for them. Obviously, there's also the right of a child that Imam al-Sajjad also talks about. He says, the right of your child is that you should know that he is from you and will be ascribed to you. through both his good and his evil. And that's a very important point. A lot of mothers, you'll see teachers say, mothers bring their children to school and expect us to bring them up. Whereas no, the school is like, it's your secondary socialization. The primary socialization is at home, where the mother has to make sure she's taught her child everything. And of course the father also has a role in this, but because the mother, she's the one who ultimately cares for the child, because she brings the child up, she suckles the child, she's supposed to be there for the child, caring for them. So she has this utmost responsibility. So in the world, your child will be, anything bad or good they do, they'll say, God bless your mother, or why did your mother teach you this? Why did your mother not stop you from doing this? And you are responsible for what has been entrusted to you, such as educating him in good conduct. And that's very important. Imam Sajjad is emphasizing this. Pointing him in the direction of his Lord, that's also something else. A lot of people will say, oh, my child is still young, I shouldn't talk to them about God. But no, even when the child is in your womb, you should talk to them. Obviously, there's a capacity for a child to understand, and there are ways in which you can describe it to a child without confusing them with a lot of philosophical, explanations. But to make them know that there is a God, and there is a religion, and there's a prophet, and there are the Ahlulbayt, then it's important. So act toward him with the action of one who knows that he will be rewarded for good doing toward him and punished for evil doing. So I think this just gives a brief summary of what a mother's duty is towards her child.
Yeah, no, I think the recital al-Huquq is one of the most amazing things I've read personally. For the audience at home, those who haven't heard of the recital al-Huquq, then please do email us and we can send you extracts of that, both in Arabic and English, for you to read. It's amazing. It's really an eye-opener for all those who want an eye-opener. I think there's 2 points you mentioned that I really want to touch upon. That's the biological aspect of it, when you said that in recital al-Huquq that all the organs of the mother protects the child, and anyone knows that biologically, even if the mother is lacking in nutrients, the child will take nutrients from the mother's body, and she's the one that will suffer, not the child. And he will receive all the nutrients, all the calcium, all the nourishments he needs, but it's the mother that will suffer if she doesn't have enough intake herself. So that's amazing how the body works to protect that child within the womb. I just want to touch upon how, a mother, when the child is within the womb, the responsibilities are all on the mother for both spiritual nourishment and physical nourishment as well. And, that's how you see that the first aspect of the child's life is all the mother rather than the father. And even when she gives birth to him, her behavior, her speech all becomes example for the child. So it's a big responsibility, to be honest. Now going to Islamic education, you touched upon that as well, but how important is it to Islamically educate your child from not a young age, but educate them and make sure they grow up with an understanding of Islam, the Ahlulbayt, and now as we are in Muharram, the tragedy of Karbala? What's the importance of educating them on these 3 aspects? Yeah, well, like I said, education starts at home. So if Islam is the most important thing to us, it's the ultimate meaning of our life, and it's the way of life for us as Muslims, then it's very important for us to teach our children about Islam, about the figures in Islam, such as the Prophet and the Ahlulbayt alayhim as-salam, from even when they're in our womb. Why do they say you should recite Quran to your child? You should speak to your child. They say even before you become pregnant, you should pray that Allah gives you a child that is a mu'min, that is a believer. So it's of utmost importance. And it's also very important to share our own knowledge with people. They always say, if you've got knowledge, there's no point of just holding it like treasure. You should spend it on others. You should give it to others. And if our children are our utmost priority, then it's very, very important for us to give them our knowledge and share with them our knowledge. So it's definitely very important. And when you mentioned the sacrifice of Karbala, I was thinking about this, and every year 2 figures really strike me in the sacrifice of Karbala. One is Fatima Zahra, her absent presence. Even though she is not there,
her name is mentioned. Every time we hear the story of Ashura and what happened on the day of Ashura at Karbala, we hear the name of Fatima Zahra alayhi salam so much as if she was there, but she wasn't. But because she was such an important part of her children's lives as a mother, they kept mentioning her. And Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam, before Imam Hussein goes to the final battle, she brings him back and she tells him, my mother told me to say this to you or kiss you before you go. And she does what she does. But it's very, like, I find that very, you know, it's very touching. Even though their mother wasn't present, you know, their mother died young. But she was there, present in their hearts, present in their behavior, the love they shared between each other. A mother teaches you that. Of course, a father can teach you that too. But a mother teaches you that through her love towards you, the way she cared for you while you were in her womb, the way she cared for you while you were still a baby, helpless. But she did everything she could to look after you and make sure that all your basic needs were fulfilled. And the second figure is Al-Banin, who is also the mother. She's the mother of Abbas and other 3 sons from Imam Ali. So she's Imam Ali's second wife. And you know, these days when you talk about stepmoms, people have this very negative conception of a stepmom. Whereas you look at Banin, and she was like the most perfect stepmom. She cared so much about Imam Hussein and Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam that when the messenger came to her after the Battle of Karbala and told her, I come with bad news, I come to tell you that your youngest son has passed, she says, no, tell me about Hussein. And then he repeats it twice, telling her about her other sons, Uthman, and then she says, no, tell me, what about Imam Hussein? So she forgets all about her own sons, even though she cares and loves them so much, but because Imam Hussein, he is from the Ahlulbayt and he is their Imam at the time. And it's only when she tells him, he tells her about Imam Hussein's demise that she truly starts to lament and she starts to mourn. So for me, that love that Al-Abbas showed on Karbala towards his brother, that was all taught to them by their mothers. Fatima Zahra alayhi salam and Al-Banin, 2 mothers that created such harmony between the family and such love, that I think that's a very valuable lesson we can learn from Karbala. Of course, there are lessons for every aspect of our life that we can learn from Karbala. Karbala in itself, why do we commemorate it? Because it was a tragedy that showed you everything that a human being could go through. Hunger and thirst being just the basic, you know, needs. Then patience, torture, suffering against an oppressor, all these things that we go through in every day of life. And these are lessons that we can learn from Karbala, so it's absolutely important for us to convey these lessons to our children, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah. There's so many lessons within it. It will be a shame if anyone who doesn't educate their children. But then there's always a discussion that people say, you know, at what age should you actually educate your children? And many people would say, you know, even about a daughter wearing hijab, but you know, until she becomes baligh, then we'll introduce the concept of hijab to her, and then, you know, I believe that when that's done, then the child will never truly understand the philosophy behind hijab because it's introduced at a later stage of their life. But like you said, like the nourishment begins from in the womb, and we see a hadith of which mentioned that Fatima Zahra alayhi salam used to speak to the child within her womb. Maryam, the mother of Isa, used to speak to the child within her womb. And you see that if you truly begin to converse with the baby in your womb, then that baby will have that spiritual and educational nourishment, let's say, from such a young age, that when they are born into the world, then they would have that.
And of course, and when they're in the world, when they've come to the world, it's the mother's duty to be a role model for her child. You know, even when you're pregnant, you should stop yourself from getting angry. You should stop yourself from saying anything you would regret, and just act in the manners that the Ahlulbayt teach us to act by. And of course, then when the baby comes and it sees you and it grows and the child grows with you, you should be the role model that shows your child how to act as a Muslim, how to behave as a Muslim. Praying in front of your child can teach them that praying is a nice thing. If the mother wears hijab and she talks to her child, always talking to your child, telling them, look, I'm going outside in front of men now, so I have to put a hijab on. Yeah, so of course, like, just every single action we do, our children are clever, and sometimes we underestimate that.
They are.
And they can catch adults out all the time, and they understand so much that you really have to watch how you behave in front of them.
Yeah, it's amazing how children pick up. People think that children do not pick up easily, but even though I had a friend, a family member who all the women in the family wear the abaya, the head abaya on the head. And then they had a little daughter. She was about 5 years old. And every time she left, once they were sitting down, they were like, okay, we're going out shopping. I think they said shopping. And then she got the abaya, put it on, the head abaya of her mum. And she said, come on, let's go. And it just shows that children do pick up. You see Western children who wear high heels of their mother, or wear the pearls or makeup. Children do pick up, and ultimately they would want to become like their mother, and they see the mother as a role model in a sense. But inshallah, we pray like what Zachariah prayed in Holy Quran. He says, Ya Allah, give us offspring, pious offspring. So inshallah. Now going to practical steps of how to spiritually nourish them or educate them in Islam. I mean, many people, they have children, and then it comes the responsibility of educating them in Islam and teaching them about the Ahlulbayt. So what practical lessons would you say would benefit, or should mothers take in educating their children?
Well, first and foremost, like we said, a mother should be the role model. So in her actions, she should, little things like saying, Insha'Allah, MashaAllah, these phrases, if you always get your child used to the mention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet saying salawat, and your child will start to hear these things, and they'll start to get used to this, and they'll start to understand it eventually and like it as well. So of course, little things like this, and then like I said, praying in front of your child, and even encouraging your child to take part. Of course, you don't want to force your child from a very young age to do things like wear the hijab or pray, but
Inshallah, we'll come after the break. We have to go for a short break, inshallah. You've ended on a good point. Inshallah, we'll come back and speak about that in more detail. For the audience at home, we're going off for a short break, inshallah. Please do join us after the break. We'll be speaking more about the role of motherhood in raising up the children to benefit society. So please join us in a few minutes. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.